Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining our Epsom Derby preview. One of the biggest races of the year, certainly the biggest for 3-year-olds. A big field today, a talented field, and a very intriguing field with lots of different angles, and something that we're very much looking forward to getting stuck into over the next 20 minutes or so. We'll start by probably talking about the draw. I know Danny and I have got slightly different takes on this. I want to warn people firstly that a lot of people on Twitter, on X, are talking about different Derby results over the last 10 years or so. You don't want to just be looking at the 10 years. You want to be looking at all 12 furlong races at Epsom over the last 50 years to have a big enough pool to take confidence in the stats you're drawing from it. So don't listen to people who say, look at people, horses that have been drawn once have won twice in the last 5 years. Historically, being drawn store one has been quite bad, and it just changes over time. So yeah, make sure you've got a big pool of data when making conclusions from it. But yeah, what do you think about where would you like your horse to be drawn typically at Epsom over 12 furlongs?
Not extreme. The very low draws don't have a statistically good record, and you're right to point out the lies, damned lies, and statistics nature of saying Store One has won this twice in the last decade. And very high also doesn't have a very good draw. In short, if you're drawn between sort of 5 and 15, this is sort of ideal. That statistics, I think, on bigger pool data analysis does show that things are slightly against you. But every race dynamic, so yeah, let's not get too hung up on it.
Okay, and it's pretty much always factored into the price. If a horse is drawn store one, they'll be pushed out a couple of points. Lionel Winter's probably, he'll be pushed out today for a couple of reasons because of both the draw and also the fact that Ryan Moore's chosen Delacroix. Probably worth noting that we're recording this at 2:15 on Wednesday. So we'll be looking at basically the first prices that have been put up for the Derby, and there'll be a lot of movement over the next 3 days. So yeah, we'll mention the prices as they are right now, but there is scope for them to change. And obviously, if we mention liking a certain horse at 5-1 and they go off 7-1, even better. So without further ado, we will make a start, and we will start with the aforementioned Ryan Moore's mount, Delacroix. So he is currently priced at 3-1, and generally, I don't think he's going to stay. He looks a bit of a turn of foot horse. The far more intelligent horse analysts, Kevin Blake, Sam Rowlands, looks at his stride frequency, and that would suggest that he's unlikely to stay. He said Tabawi, they haven't won the Derby before. Do you think Coolmore with a Tabawi could break that curse with Delacroix?
There's no reason why that curse shouldn't be broken at some stage. I mean, after all, we've had an Oaks winner, which is a course of distance out of Dubawi. And this is a really nice and likable horse, Delacroix. But like you, I'm against. It's purely a price thing. I would be kind of really excited about him if he was 6, 7, 8-1. Well, 7, 8-1. But when you bring him down to 3-1 in a 19-horse field, with the doubt over him staying, and his 2 races this season, 2 easy wins in Ireland, didn't tell us anything because they were 10 furlongs, and crucially, they weren't stand on a test at all. They were both slowly run, which what won in those races was the turn of foot. So we learned nothing about his endurance, particularly over this unique stamina test. So at 3-1, and this is the key, the price, not the horse, I'm completely against, even though I still think he's more likely than most to run his race.
Yeah. Okay, he's just a little bit short at 3-1, and there is potential that he'll get even shorter if Ryan Moore and Aidan O'Brien combine to win the Oaks the day before. And he's certainly one to avoid at the current prices. Second favourite is Ruling Course at 7-2. So obviously a very talented looking winner of the Guineas, potentially the class horse in the race. Buick's got a lot of confidence that he's going to stay. I think 7-2, it's still slightly skinny with such latent stamina concerns. For me, I'd have him a shorter price than Delacroix, but is 7-2 enough to tempt you in?
No, it's not enough to tempt me in. I would say that on form, class as expressed in form figures, he is the best horse in the race on the ratings by some way. He was a tremendous winner of the 2000 Guineas, which we can now see because the second has absolutely waltzed up in the Irish equivalent. That was a really good Guineas. And as I say, on class form, he just looks to be the number one horse in the field. If you take the literal parentage view, Justify, Belmont winner over 12 furlongs, Dam out of High Chaparral, Derby winner, what's the problem? And it all comes back to that astonishing turn of foot he does and what they call stride cadence. This guy moves rapidly and going uphill over a course like Epsom over this distance, potentially with a fast pace. If your hooves are rattling at a high tempo, it's going to put a massive strain on your stamina. So there's just this big doubt. He could buck the trend and defy that, in which case he'd be a superstar. So you're betting on Ruling Court being a superstar, and he might be. I won't try it at that price, but I do really doff my cap to his class. Yeah.
And there's a reason why not many Guineas winners go on to win the Derby. It's very rare. Was it Camelot was the last to do it, and he fairly fell in a very weak Guineas.
He wasn't a miler at all. That was the worst 2000 Guineas run in my lifetime.
Well, that's saying something. Cool. Pride of Aris is next up. He is very unexposed colt potentially. He's ran twice for Rick Beckett. Son of New Bay. So wondering if you might appreciate the rain that is around at the minute. Just looking out the window, it looks fairly grey today, and the clouds look fairly heavy. He's 5-1. I think probably would be my pick from the front end of the market. But I do think that the form of the Dante is sufficient form to win the Derby.
A very brief postscript. Now you mentioned the weather. There is a considerable amount of rain tomorrow predicted, and on Saturday. If you do like Ruling Court for this class angle, I would hold off, because if the heavens open and it starts with S in the going, I can see him really drifting. The more testing the going, and he's untested on it, the less likely his chances of staying the trip. So that's just a postscript there. Pride of Aris, really exciting colt that I like very much, like you. Breeding looks fine for me, and it's the Desert Crown angle, isn't he? Won maiden last year, caught everyone's eye. Straight to the Dante, seasonal debut 3-year-old. Won it convincingly. At a time when trainer Rafe Beckett's horses most of them were really not running very well in trials, particularly was their first run. So this guy bucked the trend. We've no idea how much more upside that is. Really, really strong chance. If I had a question about him, it would be that stall 16. Sorry, bit of background dog going on. But otherwise, he ticks so many boxes. Yeah, quite interested.
Yeah, like him, despite the draw. And then at 13-2, we have the long-time Derby winner, also with a bit of an iffy draw. He is 19 of 19, and this is Lion Winter. He was very impressive as a 2-year-old, beating Ruling Court in the Acomb at York. Starting to wonder now if Ruling Court maybe wouldn't have liked York, because the form behind Wimbledon and Hawkeye doesn't necessarily make sense. So how concerning is it for you that Ryan hasn't chosen Lion of Winter? They've got it right. They've been quite stubborn the last few years with their Derby horses, and August Rodin, City of Troy, backing them to the bitter end, and they were proved correct. So how concerning is it that they have deserted him?
Well, on the face of it, it would be a fairly simple situation, wouldn't it, in terms of recent data, as in the chosen one flops first time out. They say he'll come on a bundle for it, or there was something wrong and he'll be fine at Epsom, and it wins. So or goes for Rodin, and then City of Troy last year. The problem with this one is if that was a pattern that was going to repeat itself. You'd think the stable would be behind it, and therefore Ryan would be sitting on him. And that is the red flag to me. They say he's come on a lot from his last run when he did a lot wrong in the Dante. Didn't settle. That's another nagging thing nagging at the back of my mind. So he's too short for me, but I can see him drifting. And the memory of how good a 2-year-old he was, the little debut, 7 furlongs, he was like being niggled away at quite early on. It was only right in the end of the race when stamina kicked in that he just bounded clear. I think he could be, waiting for a trip like this season. He could come on a bundle, and it would be a poor idea of an each-way play. But if he drifts, I'd have no problem with people throwing a few quid at him to, support the string. And a good second string. He's got Colin Keane, hasn't he?
Yes, yeah, probably the best second string jockey you could get out there at the minute. He'll be very interesting to see how he runs. We'd like him to run well as a horse. It'd be exciting if he turned out to be a bit of a star this season. But there's a lot of question marks about him currently, and 13-2, I think, for me, is probably avoidable. We are now moving on to double figures, and it is Damascus, John Gosden's 12-1 shot. So he stayed on very well in the Derby, or in the Dante, excuse me, and he looks like the step up to the Derby trip of 12 furlongs will suit. The issue, or I think that could potentially be counteracted by the fact that he looks a bit slow. Took him a while to get going at Sandown in York, and will that counteract the benefits from going up and trip around a tricky course like Epsom?
Yeah, well, we'll see. And he was an eye catcher in the Dante in that last sort of half furlong, wasn't he? He really was staying on towards the end, the only one putting distance between himself and the pack, obviously, but behind Pride of Aris. But as you know, I'm no expert on horse conformation physique, but a couple of people I respect have expressed doubts over this one's ability to handle the rigors and undulations of Epsom. This is secondhand stuff that this is not my opinion. I'm not an expert on such things, but that's in the back of my mind. Otherwise, that aside, you're right. The lack of instant acceleration would be a question mark, but he'll surely stay on if he does handle the trek. And I can see him as one of many legitimate each way players. I won't play myself.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, they took him to Epsom, didn't they, for Breakfast with the Stars, if it's still called that?
Yeah.
Very difficult to tell what they're doing there, but they seem to plaster it all over TV. So, yeah, moving on. We've got another, I would say almost quite similar in style, but I suspect that you might be about to correct me, and that's Lamborghn, who looks a thorough stayer to me. Do you think he's a good contender for the each way places?
I think he's an excellent contender for the each way places. Only really have one doubt about this horse. It is admittedly quite a big one. Does he quite have the class in a field like this to win the Derby? Not quite sure. But just to give you some of the things in his favour, apart from his Derby winning sire and his stall 10, right in the middle, which is the most successful stall ever for those who like their statistics. Now he's drawn well. He is one of the very few in the field with completely proven stamina for this, having won a trial over a proper distance at Chester, in which the time was good. They didn't dawdle, and as well as the time being good, he ran very fast closing sectionals from the last sort of 2 furlong pole to the winning line. He was as fast as the previous sprinter on the card, 100 rated sprinter. This suggests to me that he's not short of boot. He was well beat by Delacroix first time out, but that was as per previous, that was a very slowly run race. I don't think that would have suited this guy. And who knows their relative state of readiness for their first times out. I wouldn't read too much into that. I would just say that, he looks pretty certain to stay. Probably, almost certainly will run prominently and get a decent position. And one of the more reliable candidates. I will play this guy each way.
Yeah, the pace makeup of this race is very interesting, given that the horses at the front end of the market will want a slow pace, but this is a 19-runner field, so I'd be a little bit concerned about Lamborghn that they try and ensure he gets onto the front end and then drops the anchor with with Delacroix ideally for Coolmore in behind. And I fear he might just use up a bit too much of his energy running up the hill in the first 3 furlongs.
That is possible, yes. But then the other flip side of that is, coming back to your earlier point, I mean, what they won't want, the lads, is for this guy to turn into a serious stamina test and fall, because that'll mean it's such a fast pace that it will not suit their two. That's not. So despite that, okay, you could say legitimate concern.
So that's 12 to 1 Lamborghn, 4 places, and I think you can get 5 places with Sky Bets at 11 to 1.
I've got 14 to 1 here.
14 to 1, excuse me.
Sky Bet are very mean in 10. They'll easily. So that reluctantly, that's not really one to go lose 3 points for, to go from 14s to 11s, I suspect.
No. Medak is next at 14s, and probably shouldn't be saying this, but this seems quite short for a horse that I wasn't aware of until about 2 days ago.
Yes, like you, I think this has taken most people by surprise. Aga Khan colours, send one over. He won a trial, a Prix Greffel. He won a trial for the French for the Prix du Jockey Club. Only no horse in that race actually went to the Prix du Jockey Club, so that doesn't give us any collateral form to take out of it. He's also won an 11 furlong condition race this season. I mean, so in a sense, he's done 11 of 12 furlongs, but it was a glacially slow pace, and any horse will get any distance if the pace is slow enough. So that doesn't tell us much. So I come down, then I look at things like pedigree, and he's like footsteps in the sand, Sire, a Derby winner out of the blue. I'll let this one pass. He's too short.
Yeah, agreed. Next in the market, I've got Stanhope Gardens at 16s. So he has form that ties him very closely with Delacroix as a 2-year-old finish. I think it was about a neck second to him. On the other hand, in comparison to Delacroix, he's got a bit more of a stamina-laden pedigree, which might suggest he'll be able to handle the trip a bit better. And are you surprised that they're not a bit closer in the betting?
They should be much closer in the betting. In a sense, I'm not sure I'm surprised, given the connections of Delacroix, and then now we've got Ryan Moore on board. Yeah. On hand, and on the other, this guy's had a very, very unorthodox preparation. Back. We didn't see him till what, sort of 10, 12 days ago, something like that, when he ran over, I'm right in saying 7 furlongs at Sandown, or was it a mile in the end? There were 2.
It was Salisbury, wasn't it? Let me double check this whilst we carry on.
Yeah, okay. Either way, his seasonal debut, which he won easily from 2-0 horses, told us nothing, but he was a really good 2-year-old, and he was the stable's, I think, almost co-big hope with Pride of Arras. And because of this unorthodox preparation, you're getting 16 to 1, did you say? Yeah, I think he's dangerous. I'm playing Stanhope. Yeah,
he won by 3.5 lengths over a mile at Salisbury to a horse rated 87. So it's not a conventional Derby trial, is it? But it's interesting, and you have managed to convince me on Stanhope Gardens. Next in the betting, we take quite a big leap up to 33s to Nightwalker. Is this a horse you're interested in?
Very much so for the ledger.
Yeah.
No, I think this is a horse with talent as a Frankel colt. Staying on quite well in the Dante, having not run well first time out at Newmarket. He could improve again for the step up and trip. So in that sense, he's an interesting outsider. But I think the race will be over too late by the time this one gets going. That's my hunch. But I think he's a really likable colt. Also not hugely convinced that Epsom, after I think he was much better at York than he was at Newmarket, and one wonders about sort of undulations thing for him. But
yeah. Okay. Right. moving on from Nightwalker, we have Tornado Alert. So this will actually be probably my preferred selection for the outsiders. So he's a son of Two Don Hot, which is an interesting pedigree. Two Don Hot obviously looked as if he would be a Derby horse all over and over based on his pedigree, but he was a lot faster than that and then ended up being probably about a 7 furlong specialist. However, his progeny, I think, are 4 from 14 over the longer trips of 12 furlongs, 13 furlongs, which isn't too bad. On his downsides, there's quite a bit of stamina there. So I would be intrigued by how he gets on from a pedigree basis. And 33 is a price with which you can afford to be intrigued more so than confident. He was 4th in the Guineas, staying on well. There's strong form lines there. Obviously, that Guineas looks fairly exceptional. He was ahead of Wimbledon Hawkeye, who ran a good race in the Dante, and that hasn't tied in with horses towards the front end of the market. So I'm interested in Tornado Alert at 33s, and I think with as many places you can get each way, he's not a bad shout. Anything you'd like to shoot me down on there?
No, not really. I mean, other than 4th in the Guineas, 1st in the Derby, used to be isn't a bit of a cliche over the ages.
Yeah.
Eye-catching position from which to was it Massar who did that, or maybe he came from?
Yeah, I checked actually for him. Massar came 3rd, so
right.
Close enough.
Yeah, and he's drawn beautifully right in the middle in 11. I was a little bit more nervous on the Two Darn Hot pedigree side, but really respect the trainer, and we just still don't know how much upside this chap could have. So I completely get it. Yeah, he's a really legitimate outside play.
Okay, cool. With them, sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, did you know what the discrepancy between the 33s you can get on the 4 place and what Sky go? On
Sky
Sky
16s.
16
to putrid 16s. Yeah, I know. I'm sure they must just be very, very cautious. I mean, with 3 days to bet into this market, there's going to be a lot of things that will change. So maybe they'll be more generous over time when they realise no one wants to back them at 50% of the odds checker prices. So yeah. Moving on, we will have a look at some more of the outsiders. So next up, we've got Tennessee Stud at 40s. Is he a horse you like?
Yeah, he's interesting. Was very disappointing on his seasonal debut when he was shorter in the betting for this race than he is now, obviously. So he disappointed behind Delacroix. That horse was race fit and Tennessee Stud wasn't. But if you like this one, it's all about going back to his two-year-old promise. In fact, I must confess he was one of only 2 bets I had on the Derby in 2024. This was one of my plays to keep me warm over the winter, and he did for a while. I was disappointed by his disappearance. He's actually Group 1 winner from last season. Caveat there is it's possibly the weakest Group 1 race run last season in Europe, in France, Britain or Ireland, as far as I can see. It was 10 furlongs and sort of as winter was approaching in the mud. But in other words, given that profile, there's this reappearance as I referred to earlier, in this race that won by Delacroix, which was won by speed with very, very slow early pace. Absolutely no good at all to this guy. This could see him in a completely different light. Brian thinks he's good. Well, listen to the trainer night before speak and see what kind of confidence there is. But yeah, he's interesting. I've got something left from last November, a not very good price, and I took some more at 66s a couple of days ago because he's one of my exciting outsiders.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, and the mud point is good to note too, given the forecast rain. So yeah, one to watch with the weather, and yeah, we'll see how Tennessee Stud gets on. Next in the market, we have got Newground at 50s. He is another one that has been supplemented, right? I'm thinking. Is that a sound investment from Juddmonte?
Juddmonte have already had some interest in this race. To throw in another one, they must think this horse has some independent chance of its own. Won twice as a juvenile, unbeaten. Only 3rd twice this season. which is not so encouraging. Though notably on his seasonal debut, he was only just beaten to third by Qualificar, who then came second to Camilo Pizarro in the French Derby. So he's been racing against some good horses. He was then, second in the Prix de Suresnes. Again, not much distance covered the first few home. He would have to improve a huge amount on the sort of form of what he's done to date, the figures to qualify here. But he will not have had a race like this. He's had sort of slow French trials, small field. This will be end-to-end gallop. That is apparently why Connections have sent him there, because they think that's going to suit him. Who knows? Who knows how much upside?
Okay. And then moving on, we've got Tusken Hills at 66s. I think he actually is one of the few horses where the Sky prices matches the odds checker price. So with the 5 places available to you, do you like 66s?
I do. And I was very surprised when the Sky prices came out that this was not one of the ones. 66s to 1 generally. So I thought, okay, well, Sky's 5 places, it'll be 25s or 33s or something. That is an attractive price, I think, for a horse, again, with unknown upside. One raced twice, won twice at 2. Second win was a 5-length win of a listed race. Reappearance only 4th in the Dante, finished alongside, kind of Lion in Winter, but like many of those coming first time out, is expected to prove huge amount second run. Our flyer on this at 5 places at 66 to 1 seems to me a perfectly reasonable play for a very small stake. Could be anything still.
Okay. And then after Tusken Hills, we get into some of the serious outsiders, the outsiders of the outsiders. And are there any of these horses that you want to call out that you'd like to mention?
I'll call out the ones that are complete tosses. No disrespect to Connections, no Rogue Impact, Green Storm, and Nighttime Dancer make no appeal at all. Nor does Al-Wasi, the joint lowest rated, despite his owner having this history of having a huge priced horse somewhere in the top 4 in the places and the payout places in this race. But to go on owner colours to repeat the trick with this one on his CV seems crazy, which leaves just 2 of the sort of what I call crazy outsiders in terms of 3-figure prices. Lazy Griff. Is he being a bit neglected at 100 to 1? He was second. He wasn't beaten far by Lamborghorn at Chester. It was Lazy Griff's first time out this season. He showed a consistent record of improvement last season as a juvenile. If he steps forward again, is he completely impossible? You've also got Christophe Soumillon on board at 100 to 1 in a grade 1, which is a rare thing. So that wouldn't be the worst. Sky are very mean at 50s, but he's hundreds elsewhere.
You can get 150s 3 places with Labrix and Coral at the minute.
Yeah, 3, because even I find it would be tough to see him in the 3. But anyway, watch, kind of want to watch that price. Again, if you start getting over 100s and we're into sort of 4 or 5 places, why not? The other one I'll just give a mention to, and I had a little bet on it when the extra places came up just before we started this, is Sea Scout. Sea Scout is the only course winner in this field. I think I'm right in saying. Now, okay, it was probably a weakish trial. It was a trial which doesn't give him the right to win again in this company, but he's basically drifted up to that price on the basis of what he did next. He went to the Dante and flopped at York. And now maybe it was the York, maybe it was the fast ground, maybe, and this is obviously right there as the elephant in the room, maybe because that's really as good as he is and he was in a better class race and he wasn't up to it. That is what the assumption is. But if the truth is that for one reason or other he hated the whole York experience, ground or track, and he's back to Epsom, where he's shown his best, seeing off Trinity College, who's beaten only a length and a quarter in the French Derby, then suddenly you've got 100 to 1 shot 5 places, which I thought must be worth an investment. I'd probably lose my money, but 5 each way, 100 to 1. You've got 100 quid in your pocket, it becomes fifth, and you send. I thought the risk return profile of that bet, given his course form, I thought have a go.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, so I think that is every horse mentions up now, just as we hit the half an hour mark. Yeah, so quite a few positive mentions for a fair few of the outsiders trying to take advantage of the different extra place markets. At the front of the market, there's certainly preference for Pylavaris, and then personally, as we get into the bigger prices, Daniel positively mentioned Stanhope Gardens, and then Tornado Alert for myself. And then do you want to list through the ones that you're keen on at the bigger prices again?
Yes, Wild Outsider Sea Scout, 100 to 5 places Sky. Probably lose your money, but who knows? Tusken Hills, 66s, again 5 places. And the other 100 to 1 outsider would only 50s with Sky. So wait and see how that develops. Is the horse who finished just behind Lamborghorn at Chester, Lazy Griff. So if a lot of these sort of horses with stamina question marks just don't get home, some of these horses who will stay could really pick up places. And Derby throws up big one. It's a bit like the Grand National. This is a race in the year where I slightly lose my discipline and have sort of 2 or 3, maybe more in the National, extreme outsiders for the fun of the day rather than it being an investment recommendation.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Small stakes, therefore recommended, probably. Well, thank you very much. This is the longest one we've ever done. So if you've stuck through it all, we very much appreciate your focus and concentration. And yeah, thank you all very much. We've been noticing a lot more comments and really enjoying reading them, really enjoying responding to them, and really enjoying sort of the development of this little community that we're getting going. So thank you very much, everyone. Please do continue to like, subscribe. We really appreciate it. And we hope you enjoy the Derby. It should be a fantastic race. So thank you very much. And we will see you in the next one. Goodbye.